Okay, in this video we're looking at factorising quadratics at the grade 5 level, and without further ado, let's get into it. And this might seem a little bit strange, before we look at factorising quadratics, I want to again just quickly look at expanding brackets, because you'll see that factorising and expanding, they are the opposite thing, and I think it really helps us understanding what is going on here. So we saw in the previous video, to expand double brackets, we followed this sort of claw method of doing, expanding, which means multiplying out the brackets. So we saw we did our first term x timesing it by x, which gave us x squared. We did x timesing it by 3, which gives you plus 3x. 4 times x, which gives you plus 4x. And then 4 timesing it through by 3, which gives you plus 12. If that doesn't make sense, I would definitely watch the previous video, and that should make a lot of help. It should help you a lot, sorry. Then we saw that we've got a plus 3x and a plus 4x. These are like terms. You can combine them together to give you x squared. 3x plus 4x gives you plus 7x, and then we've got a plus 12 on the end. So that was expanding, which means multiplying out of the brackets. Factorising means you're given something in this form. So this is a quadratic. Well, so is this, but you're given a quadratic where you've got 3 parts to it. A square part, which is what makes it a quadratic, an x part, and a number part. And factorising means putting it back into brackets. Okay, and because these are the reverse thing, it means putting it into a pair of double brackets. Okay, so when we factorise this thing here, it will look exactly like this: x plus 4, x plus 3. Okay, so that is how kind of expanding and factorising are linked. Expanding means expanding your double brackets to give us something in this form, and then factorising means getting something from this form back into a pair of double brackets, because factorising means to put into brackets. Okay, and the process for doing this is you need numbers that multiply, and it's always the same for all of these kind of quadratics, times to make your last number, which is 12, and that add to make your middle number, which is positive 7. So 7 goes in here. So two numbers, a pair of numbers that work here, and these numbers are going to be 4 and 3, because 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 add 3 is 7. We'll get on to more about this later, but just to kind of give you a rough idea. And then because we have a quadratic in this form where it's just x squared, okay, it's always just going to be an x at the start and an x in the start. Okay, and we also know it's going to be like that because we can see it in the question. We're going to go back to this. And your two numbers here are 4 and 3. So we've got x plus 4 and then x plus 3. So we can see we've gone back to the original question. So again, just to repeat it, expanding means you multiply out the brackets to give you something in this form, and in today's video we're looking at you're given something in this form and you're factorising it back into brackets, double brackets, okay, using this method. So let's get into the video. We'll go through 4 different cases because that kind of covers you for what you need to know, and then you can try 4 questions yourself at the end, and that is going to be it for this video. So question number 1 says factorise this. And again, because it is a quadratic, because we've got the square parts here with 3 parts to it, we know it must go into a pair of double brackets like this. And because it's just 1x squared, okay, it's always going to be at the grade 5 level, x and then x at the start of your brackets. And the process for doing this is always going to be the same. Numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is positive 20, and that add to make your middle number, which is positive 9. So 9 goes in here. And then this bit, if you're not sure what the numbers are, just try some numbers and see where you're at. So let's try a pair of numbers. Let's go for 10 and 2, because maybe you're thinking, well, 10 times 2 is 20. You're correct, but is 10 plus 2 9? It isn't, so those numbers don't work. So let's try a different pair that might work, like 4 and 5, because 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 plus 5 is 9. So these are your numbers, and it's really important you get this bit correct, otherwise the whole thing goes a little bit wrong. So in our bracket, it's going to be x plus and then 4, and then x plus this number here, 5, and it could have been the other way around. You could have written x plus 5, x plus 4, it makes no difference. And the beauty with this, okay, like with a lot of topics in maths, is that you can check your answer. Okay, this is your answer, which is fantastic, that is definitely your answer, but you can check your answer, okay, by expanding the brackets out. And if you expand these brackets, okay, you should get back to the original quadratic up here, or the original expression up here. So we can do x times x, just very quickly, gives us x squared. X times by 5 gives you plus 5x. 4 times by that x gives you plus 4x, and 4 times by 5 gives you plus 20. We then know that these parts here, they simplify because they're like terms to give you plus 9x, and we've got that plus 20 on the end. So you can see by expanding back out the brackets, we get back to the original question. So definitely, I'm confident I'm correct. So in maths, if you can, always a really good thing to check your answer, and we can do that here by expanding back out the brackets. Okay, brilliant. You can now try the one on the right, and you can pause the video and give that one a go, and I will go through it now. Again, the same process. Okay, you're factorizing this, so you're putting it into a pair, because factorize means put it into brackets, and it's going to be double brackets, okay, and it's going to be just x at the start at the grade 5 level, okay, because it's just looking at x squared. There's no number like 3 at the start of it. It's always just 1. It's just going to be x and x at the start. And then it's numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is 20, and that add to make your middle number, which is equal to 212. Okay, and then choose two numbers here that work. In this case, it is 10 and 2, because 10 times 2 is 20, 10 add 2 is 12. So your two numbers are going to be x plus 10 and x plus 2 in either order. And again, you can check your answer by expanding the brackets back out. And if you get really good at expanding the double brackets, you can almost just do it in your head. X times x, x squared. X times 2 is 2x. 10 times x is 10x. Add them together, you get 12x. 10 times 2 is 20. So definitely, I've just done a quick check in my head. Okay, this is definitely my correct answer. Good. Okay, moving on to another question. Factorize this quadratic. This one's a little bit different because we've now got a negative sign, but the process is exactly the same. It's just being really careful when you choose your pairs of numbers. But the process is going to be the same. Factorize a quadratic in this form. It's going to go into a pair of double brackets. And again, it's numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is negative 12, and that add to make your middle number. X plus x means plus 1x. Okay, so I'll just make it really clear. Times to make negative 12, that negative belongs to this number 12, which is really, really important. And the add to make your middle number, okay, this time is plus 1x. You can't see it, but there is a 1 there, so you're adding to make the number 1. Okay. And this one, if you're not sure, again, just begin by choosing some numbers. So times to make minus 12, maybe you're thinking something like, I don't know, 6 and negative 2. And just to write down here, this is very important, okay, for timesing and dividing numbers, okay, if you times or divide two positives, you get a positive outcome. A positive with a negative, you get a negative outcome. If you times or divide a negative with a positive, you get a negative answer. If you times or divide two negatives, you get a positive answer. This is something really useful to refer to, so let's use this. Okay, so 6 times negative 2, it is minus 12, but 6 add negative 2 is 4, not 1. We're not even close to 1, so that unfortunately is not a good combination. So let's try something else. Let's perhaps try 4 and negative 3. Well, 4 times negative 3, okay, 4 times negative 3. We're timesing one positive with one negative, so you've got timesing a positive with a negative, you get a negative answer, so minus 12, which is really, really good. And what's 4 add minus 3? So 4 add minus 3. This is the hot and cold stuff that I talk about in my videos. So if you're adding cold air, you're getting colder. So you're taking away 3. 4 take away 3, it is 1. Perfect. That is exactly what I want. So I've checked, which is really, really important. Okay, so I know my numbers are going to be correct. So in my bracket, it's going to be x and then x. And then it's going to be plus 4 minus 3. So x plus 4 and x take away 3. And they can go in either order. It doesn't make a difference. It could be x minus 3 first and then x plus 4. And again, how can you check this? Mental check. You can expand the brackets back out. So if you expanded these brackets using your claw method, okay, you would see, well, let's go through it. X times x gives you x squared. X by negative 3 gives you minus 3x. 4 times by x gives you plus 4x. And then 4 times by negative 3 gives you minus 12. We then simplify minus 3x plus 4x gives you plus 1x, so plus x, minus 12. Exactly what I had at the start of the question. So if you have time in an exam or just whenever, okay, particularly when you first do this, you can always check your answer, which is a really, really good thing to do. There is your answer. Okay, good. So you can pause the video and give this one here a go, and let's go through this one now. So again, same process, right? numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is negative 30. That negative belongs to the 30, so minus 30. And that add to make your middle number, which is positive 7, so plus 7. Brilliant. There we go. And if you weren't sure here, you could try some numbers. I always just think pick numbers at times to make 30. So maybe you go 6 and 5. Okay, something like maybe 6 and minus 5, because one of them must be negative to get a minus 30. But, 6 and minus 5, we're nowhere near 7 in any way, shape or form. So that's not a great combination. With practice, you'll get these really, really quickly. Okay, it's going to be 10 and 3, but one of them must be negative to get a minus 30 when you times them. So it is going to be negative 3, because 10 times negative 3, 10 multiplied by negative 3. Okay, using this down here, one positive, one negative, you get a negative answer, which is minus 30, and 10 add negative 3. Okay, 10 add negative 3. Again, hot and cold, if you're adding cold air, you're getting colder, so you're taking away 10 take away 3 is equal to 7. Perfect. It's really important you get these two numbers correct, otherwise the whole thing goes just a little bit wrong, particularly when we look at solving quadratics. You lose a lot of marks. Okay, and again, all of these examples are going to be in a pair of double brackets like this, where it's going to be x and then x, and in this case it's going to be plus 10 and take away 3, so x plus 10, x take away 3. This is my answer. Brilliant. There we go. If you got that, good, really good, because when you first do this, it isn't that easy. It takes time to kind of get the pairs of numbers quickly in your head. Okay, this one, again, it's the same format, but it's different because you've got the negative here this time and the positive over here, but it's the same idea. So let's go through the same process. Numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is positive 70, and that add to make your middle number, okay, which is negative 17, so minus 17. And again, right, if you need to, okay, definitely refer to your timesing and dividing grid for positive and negative numbers. It is a really, really useful thing to refer to. Okay, so I'm just thinking numbers at times to make 70. Just a simple one is going to be something like 10 and 7, isn't it? But, okay, they've got to add to make minus 17. And this is probably the trickiest variation, because actually our numbers here are going to be minus 10 and negative 7. Okay, and the reason is, right, if we go and take negative 10 and we times it through by a negative 7, well, you're timesing two negatives, you get a positive answer. 10 times 7 is 70, which is good, which is what I want. And then negative 10 add negative 7, so minus 10, add negative 7. Okay, hot and cold, I'm adding cold air, I'm getting colder. So I'm at minus 10, taking away 7, I get to minus 17. So these are my two numbers. And again, it just comes with practice. You might try some numbers and you might not get there, so you keep trying. Okay, so these are my numbers, minus 10 and minus 7. Therefore, in my bracket, okay, we're going to get, and it's going to be x at the start, and x, and it's going to be negative 10, so negative 10 and negative 7. And these, again, are my answers. And again, you could check, okay, you could check by expanding. So if you expand the brackets, that is how you check your answer. Okay, but these are my answers. X take away 10, x minus 7. Right, you can try this one on the right, and then I'll go through it now. Okay, so I hope you've had a go at it. Let's look at this one. So same process, right? Numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is positive 5, so 5, and that add to make your middle number, which is negative 6. And again, it's just a case of practice with this. So maybe you go and try, well, what times is to make 5? Well, there's only two factors here, which is going to be 5 and number 1. Okay, so 5 times 1, it is 5, but 5 add 1, it isn't negative 6. So this is a case, if your negative comes in this place, you're going to have two negative numbers. And let's check it. Okay, so what's negative 5? And we're timesing it by negative 1. What does that make? Timesing two negatives, you get a positive. Okay, negative with a negative, you get a positive. So it's going to give us the answer of 5. And then we've got negative 5. And if we add negative 1 to it, okay, well, negative 5 add minus 1 means you're taking away 1. So it gives you negative 6. Perfect. That is exactly what I want. Take your time to get this bit correct. Otherwise, it does all just go a bit wrong. Sorry, I'm just Right, so your two brackets are going to be bracket, 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 bracket. It's going to be x and then x. And your numbers are -5 and -1. So -5 and -1. And they can go in either order. Okay, good. And again, you can check by expanding your brackets, but that is it. Good, good, good. Okay, so this is the final variation before we look at some questions you can try on your own. And it's different this time because you can see you've got a negative here and you've got a negative here. Okay, but it is the same idea again. So numbers that multiply to give you this time -28, and that add to give you your middle number, which is -3. Okay, and then it's just a case of getting some numbers that work it. So I'm just thinking, what times is to make 28 first of all? Well, I know that 4 times 7 is 28, but there's a negative here, so clearly one of them must be negative. Let's go for -7. Okay, well, you could just go for -4, which is wrong. Okay, but let's see why. Right, -4 times 7, it is -28, but -4 add 7 is +3. So it's going to be the other way around. So if you get it wrong, first of all, just try switching it over. Okay, good. So our two brackets here are going to be bracket, 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 and then bracket. Oh, a bit closer. There we go. And it's going to be, as always, x. Not as always, but in this case, because it's just x squared at the start, it's going to be x plus 4, and then x take away 7. So that's good. So what some people do, and what I've seen some people, teachers do is, right, because there's 4 variations here, you've got, sorry, just to go back again, you've got when it's all positive like this, so you've got a positive and a positive, you've got positive and a negative in this order, you've then got a negative and a positive in this order, you've then got 2 negatives. Often people kind of tell you to memorize something, you know, if you see 2 negatives, I think it's much better to be able to think your way through the question yourself, okay? And not just memorize something and think, well, if I do have this scenario, let's approach it in the same way and just play around with my numbers until it makes sense. Otherwise, you're just memorizing stuff. It's just more things to remember, which is unnecessary. You know, if your basic skills are good, you know, you can think your way through the questions. Okay, last one for you to try. So you can pause the video, give this one here a go, and then that is going to be it for, not going to be it, but that's it for the my turn, your turns. Okay, so again, numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is -24, and that are going to add to make your middle number, which is -2. Remember, the signs always belong to your number. So -24 and then -2. Okay, so add to make -2. And I'm just thinking, right, what times is to make 24? You could have something like 6 and 4. Okay, so maybe let's go for that. Or 12 and 2. That one is wrong, but let's just go through it because we know it's wrong. If I went for 12 and 2, well, 12 times 2 is 24. I want negative, so let's make one of them negative, like -2. Well, 12 times -2 is -24, but it's nowhere near adding to make -2. So that's not a good combination. Let's go for our numbers of 4 and 6, because I know that 4 times 6 is -24. And then if I add them, well, sorry, I need to make it negative. So let's go and make one of them negative. Let's go and make the 4 negative. I've just chosen it randomly. If I go and do -4, add 6, is that -2? Well, -4, add 6 is +2, so it is the wrong way around. So you've got to make sure that this bit is correct. That's really, really important. And then your two brackets, okay, are going to be x and x again, and it's going to be +4 minus 6, so x plus 4, x take away 6. There we go. Brilliant. If you got that, really, really good. Okay, so what I've got now is I've got 4 questions here, A, B, C, and D. These cover all of the variations you need to know for the grade 5 level. So if you get this stuff right, you can be confident that you've really understood this topic, which is fantastic. So let's go through them. You can pause the video, go through them, rewind to the end, and then you can see all of the answers. Okay, but the same process for all of them. Let's begin with the first one. Numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is -12, and that add to make your middle number, which is +x, which really means +1x, so add to make 1. And then here, you're just choosing numbers that are going to work. So you could go for something like 6 and 2 and make one of them negative, because I know that 6 times -2 is -12, but are they going to add to make 1? Well, 6 and -2 is 4. We're not even really that close, so that was a bad pair to choose. Let's go for 4 and 3. And let's go and make the 3 negative, because 4 times -3, it is -12. Good. And then 4 add -3 gives me 1. Perfect. Okay, 4 take away 3, it is 1. So these are my numbers. So if you don't get there at first, just try some new pairs. change the signs. If you put the sign up there and it wasn't correct, change it with the signs. Just think your way through it. That's really, really important. And yeah, because if you get this bit wrong, it all goes a bit wrong. Anyway, the two brackets are therefore going to be, it's going to be x at the start of both because we're just looking at an x squared part. 4 and minus 3, so x plus 4 and then x take away 3. This is your first answer. Brilliant. If you got that, well done. The second one, same process, numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is positive 23, and that add to make your middle number, which is positive 24. This one might look a little bit strange because 23 is a prime number. You've just got to think a bit craftily here. It's going to be 1 and 23 because 1 times 23 is 23. 1 add 23 is 24. Okay, so your two brackets here are going to be x and then x, and it's going to be plus 1 plus 23 in either order. And again, for all of these questions here, you can check your answers. Let's make a note of that because that's a really important thing to highlight again. You can check your answers, all of them, by expanding. So really, really good thing to do. Okay, next one, we've got factorize this one, same process, times to make negative 14, and that add to make, again, it's negative 14, and add to make negative 5. Add to make negative 5. So times to make 14, probably going to be 2 and 7, isn't it? So 2 and 7, but it's negative, so it's going to make the 2 negative, because minus 2 times 7 is negative 14. Again, we're using our grid here for timesing and dividing negatives. Okay, so definitely we need to be really familiar with this. That's really, really important. Okay, so 1 negative, 1 positive, timesing, we get a negative answer, good. But is minus 2 add 7 minus 5? No, it's positive 5. It's the wrong way around. 2 add minus 7 is negative 5. Or you could think of it as 2 take away 7 is minus 5. So these are my numbers. Therefore, my brackets are going to be like this. So it's going to be x plus 2, x minus 7 in either order. Okay, it makes no difference. Okay, last but not least, we've got this one here. Again, the same process, numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is 12 plus 12, so just 12, and the add to make your middle number, which is negative 7, so we've got minus 7 that's going in there. Again, try some numbers. You could go and try 6 and 2. I know 6 times 2 is 12, but 6 and 2, I'm at 8. I'm not really close to being at 7, so bad choice. Let's go and choose 4 and 3. Well, 4 times 3, it is 12, and 4 add 3 is 7. This is the trickier one. You've got to be able to recognize that it's going to be 2 negatives here, because a negative times a negative, like over here, negative by a negative gives you positive. So minus 4 by minus 3 gives you plus 12, and a negative 4 add negative 3, or minus 4 take away 3 gives you minus 7. Therefore, these are my answers. So two brackets is going to be x, and then minus 4, and then x minus 3. And that is my answer. Brilliant. There we go. Okay, so if you got all of that correct, that is fantastic. That is another topic in your inventory. A bit of a long video, 24 minutes or so, 23.5 minutes, but hopefully it was useful. Thank you for watching.